While most kids spend their free time in front of a screen, there is at least one young man in Erie County who spends his time nurturing nature. Here's 13 ABC's Eric Harbert with Wednesday's Bright Side.
There's a tree at the Osborne Metro Park in Huron, Ohio. Actually, there's a lot of trees, but there's one in particular near the soccer fields that has a story. And that story starts here. That's 9-year-old Trajan Wells in the middle, his sister on the left, and that leafy twig held up by a popsicle stick is that tree.
It was barely a foot tall, and it was broken off, so it looked like a dead stick on it. And, you know, there's so many trees everywhere. Like, it's just a dead stick. You don't need to bother with this.
Everyone else saw
A dead stick.
A broken twig.
So what was it about this particular tree that caught a 9-year-old's eye?
I don't really know.
But Mom does.
He's loved nature his whole life, since before he can remember.
So that little leafy twig had a caretaker.
And I guess the goal was just to make it, not die.
That's a pretty good goal.
I have lots of small tree books.
And from those books of knowledge, the tree grew and grew, much like Trajan. And 3 years later, this is what it looked like earlier this week. That small tree, now 20 feet tall and too big for the family yard. Enter Mike Hensley, a naturalist with the Erie Metro Parks.
We've had a lot of experiences with Trajan. Trajan's been coming to the park programs for as long as I've been here. And he is an extremely knowledgeable kid, well above his age. And definitely, it's very impressive. I remember my first interaction with Trajan was, we're going through the woods and Trajan just specifically naming off trees. And he was quizzing me more than I was quizzing him.
But Trajan had already aced the quizzes. Now he was hoping Mike and his team were up for a test, uprooting the tree and moving it to a better place at the Metro Park.
It's a pretty delicate process. The machine that you use, basically, if you think about it, it's a giant scoop that reaches underneath the tree and cuts off some of the roots, but not all of it.
When I knew what the machine was, I was concerned that it was not big enough. Because it's got a lot of roots. It left some behind. It was almost kind of scary because they just scoop it and tip it sideways.
But this tree had already lived through a lot worse, and now, come spring, it's ready to blossom.
Black locusts specifically love sunlight, and they grow really well in sunlight. So this tree's going to take off.
At least probably 3 times the height.
But what about Trajan, this young modern-day Johnny Appleseed?
I have lots of pots full of small trees right now.
And thankfully, he'll always have a place to put them.
Well, if he's got more trees to give, I don't think that we would tell him no.
In Erie County, Eric Harbert, 13 ABC Action News.
What a great story, Eric. Thanks for sharing it. 13 ABC Action News continues in just a moment.